TC, Spiritual Shepherd. Welcome back to the Spiritual Shepherd YouTube channel. Today we are getting into the power of breath, the empowerment of breath, how you can actually empower your cells, how you can charge your battery cells up or power yourselves up or give yourself potent energy or access your potential. Hopefully you see me. Hopefully you see me. So this is getting into the power of breath, specifically the spiritual power of breath. A lot of the things that I'm going to be speaking on cannot be seen. They can only be felt, they can only be thought of, they can only be experienced, but they very much cannot be seen all of the time. Sometimes, but not all of the time, can they be seen. So first and foremost, I'm going to be getting into some profound spiritual practices like breatharianism, as well as dry fasting, the 40 days of dry fasting, such as Moses and Yeshua or Yeshaya the Christ, as well as different Egyptian mysteries, Paleo-Hebrew mysteries, or mystical knowledge, or forbidden knowledge that most people do not really speak on, or it is hidden from the masses. We're going to venture into our own spiritual climb, and we're going to, evolve the way that we kind of look at things. And I'm going to help you connect different dots. That's like one of my favorite things, is connecting the dots between some of these other different types of practices and some of these other different types of belief systems or spiritualities, and really link it home to really see how it connects with the Paleo-Hebrew aspect, the breatharian lifestyle, how it connects with the 40-day dry fasting of Moses and Yeshua, as well as the serpent and the staff within the Egyptian hieroglyphs, Egyptian knowledge and spirituality, the African Egyptian spirituality, as well as like Cometicism and stuff like that, and how all of that is shown. They have second comings, and they have all these different types of things that are interconnected with this. And I really want to have you guys see some of these aspects that it really speaks in biblically, like such as metaphorical terrains of the desert. So journeying in the desert is also simultaneous with dry fasting. That the body is the temple. By you dry fasting is you going into the desert. Is you going into the desert. That is where when you go into the desert, you rid yourself of lower entities, which is exactly what Yeshua was doing in the desert. He was being tempted per se, or I guess tested as well, because when there's a tempt, there's also a test. And I want you guys to see that these metaphorical terrains, and they are very literal terrains. When you go into your body dry fasting, dry, desert, you can see the intercorrelation between these types of things. So let's dive into this very ancient wisdom and how all of this stuff interconnects, okay? So first, we're going to start with the spiritual power of breath. Now, in Hebrew, in Paleo-Hebrew, it is also known as ruach, and that is any form of the air element. That is what ruach is. So the wind blows where it may. The wind is ruach, okay? Breath is your internal wind. So tornado would be a ruach. Toroidal field, a torus, that is ruach. Creating a torus or toroidal field within you is simultaneously working on 0 point energy. It's building a battery within you. So when you go into the 0 point energy aspect of what you are doing that through breath work. Breath work out. That is what breath work is. Breath work out is breath work in, meaning that you are working to bring breathing or the energy of breath in you, which is what? Ruach. Another word, it's the same word, ruach. It means spirit. Another word for ruach is spirit, breath, chi. Chi is X or cross or Christ in Greek. Okay, Greek is still above English. I want you guys to know that. Greek and Latin are still both above English, where we have to start to see that chi is Christ. Okay, chi is also known as pranayama. Breath is also known as pranayama. Breath means, so prana is chi or energy, and then yama is cultivation. And this is also actually connected even farther than Greek, And I want you guys to know that it does have roots in Hebrew as ruach and other different forms of this. And this is getting more into the linguistics aspect of it. But all of these words are interconnected, and pranayama is connected to yoga. And I do believe that yoga is also connected to the way that we are to live as Christ, like Christ-like. Being Christ-like is to do more yoga. I find it very interesting that the body's the temple. So why would we not want to sustain the body as long as possible, which is what yoga means. But yoga also means union. And union, you and I in one, or union, okay? Union. Now, that is just an easy way to do it, but union is also you and I. What is the I? I is God within you. And then you is who you think yourself as, which is your ego, which means that you're going to stop identifying with your egoic frame, your body, okay? And you're going to start being more in connection with God within you, okay? And that is through chi, that is through the meridian system, that is through the 12 bodily systems, operating through a multitude of ways, whether in flexibility or stretching. We are stretching out limbs to live longer. We are stretching out limbs to operate more force, which can be through healing. It can be through healing. There is like Reiki and all this stuff is all energy healing. It's the same thing. Okay. And many of these spiritual traditions bridge breath. Okay. They bridge breath, and they actually are very much interconnected biblically. Specifically, breath work is seen as spirit. It is actually seen as spirit. That's what Ruach is. Now, obviously a breatharian, which is similar to Yeshua, the Christ, some people call him Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, okay, or Jesus of Nazareth, the Christ. There's many different names. You understand what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying. As well as Moses, they dry fasted for 40 days. There's also the verse too that as Moses lifted up the serpent on a bronze or brass rod, which is just your spine, ultimately, that's your spine. As Moses lifted up the serpent, so shall the Son of God or Son of Man lift up the serpent in the desert. The desert represents dry fasting. During dry fasting, you do different things such as breath work, yoga, meditation, and dark room. Those are the 4 things that I absolutely teach in all of my one-to-one client sessions. Now, these things are very integrated, and they can almost be slept on even with people who have done the work for 5 years, 7 years, 9 years, 12 years. These different types of experiences really have to be experienced a specific type of way in long term, and it cannot be approached with fear. Remember, do not fear, okay? Now, breatharian, we understand that food is an illusion. We understand that food is also validation from the outside. It's seeking validity from something outside of you from food. Food is also known as a drug, and we know that food is a drug, as well as it is the simplest, most slept on drug. Same with caffeine as well, okay? And I'm saying that knowing that I have caffeine right in front of me, okay? I'm saying that confidently, knowing what I'm saying. As well, too, is that the body uses breath to purify the cells or the battery cells that is charging and empowering your systems, that is charging up your systems. And what is that system running for? A lot of people say, well, it's a system. So what is the system building? What is it running for? It is building to send energy up into heaven. It is building to send energy up into the temple. These are known as your temples. The Ark of the Covenant is right here. I will show you guys right here depictions of the brain being heaven, or the throne room of God, okay? God, the Most High, okay? It's the Most High, as well as in Hebrew, Yad Hevav Yad. You can see that it is actually, so Jehovah Adonai. Jehovah, what is Adonai? Adonai is the body. It is, Adonai is the creator. Adonai is, as well as Adonis. You can see what Adonis means. It means the body. When you really start to look at the words, it is the body, okay? And I'm not referring to the ego. Okay? I'm not referring to the ego. I'm just referring to the bodily temple, okay? Now let's speak on this. For breatharians, breath is the sustenance, okay? Breath is the substance, feeding the body energy that goes beyond conventional food, feeding it in a non-conventional way. I don't say unconventional. It is definitely non-conventional or unconventional, but I want you guys to really see that this is actually the normal practice that we're supposed to do. And we're so separated from nature, we're so separated from what is natural that we do have long periods of fasting. We do have long periods of even weeks of dry fasting, weeks of just water fasting before we have our next meal, okay? And breatharian is living beyond physical nourishment, meaning even beyond fruit, even beyond liquids, even beyond juices and smoothies and conventional ways of eating. Breatharian is seen as a practice. It is ultimately connected. I would even say that you really have to change your subconscious mind to really change your belief systems, to believe that you can sustain your body, that you can receive sustenance other than just how you've been programmed to believe and receive your sustenance. And that is i.e. pranayama, meaning that, or breathwork cultivation. When I say pranayama, it just means breathwork cultivation. You breathwork in. Breathwork out is breathwork in, meaning that you're putting the work in to bring more breath and chi in your body, more spirit within your body. And you will know what I'm saying. The people who will condemn this might potentially not know because they have not done. They have not experienced it. They might have a lot of book knowledge, but they have less experiential or street knowledge on this topic. I have a bit of both, okay? Now, let's speak on this as well. Prana is also the sustenance known as life force energy. Say life force energy is connected to the 0 point energy. That is where it starts. It is the 0 point, okay? The 0 point energy is also resonant of the heart. So in the actual aura, okay, in the aura, which is also the halo as well, okay? I want you guys to really see, but the aura is your whole body, okay? But there is where, when the aura is shining so bright, you can see the halo, okay? Now, with this is a very important thing, that in the aura, the 0 point energy is the heart space. The heart space is also known as the Star of David, the Merkaba field, the 0 point energy field. This is where the heart space, the electromagnetic space, operates 1,000 times more magnifying and more magnetic than that of the thought space or that of the brain space or that of the mind space that the mind operates on or that thought operates on. Our emotions are more powerful, i.e. the emotions are more powerful. And so the more that we emote, the more that we emit positive frequency, light, magic, vibration. And I'm saying this knowing that I've studied Solomon, that I've studied this stuff. I've been initiated into Solomonic lineage as a multitude of other things as well. Knowing what the 5 elements truly are, knowing that you are the 5 elements, okay? The head, you have 2 arms and 2 legs. That is representative of star, which is also the 5 elements. And each of them are as east to the west as well. You guys can see what I'm saying. And if you actually stand still, you look like a cross. And you are the exact depiction of the Most High God. Right now, you are made perfectly. Mother Earth made you perfectly, okay? The thing is that we have been convinced. The only way that we're unperfect is because we have actually deluded ourselves, and gone through the delusion that we are not that. That's the funny thing, is that we've convinced ourselves that we are not already in the perfect moment. Look, all other beings but human beings operate in perfect synchronization with everything around them. Okay, the only being that doesn't do that is human, because we have not realized ourselves. We have not known ourselves. That's what know thyself, or Temet Nosh, means. And it means to love oneself, and it means to love oneself compassionately. Compassion is the byproduct of love. So that means that when you compassionately love others, when you compassionately love animals, when you compassionately love yourself, okay, yourself first, obviously, compassionately love yourself first, you can really start to forgive yourself because you have mercy on yourself. Compassion, there is mercy, there is grace, there is love, there is passion. There really is that compassion, okay? Compounding that passion of love of yourself, okay? Now let's really stay on this. The 40 days of dry fasting, this is the path of Moses and Jesus, okay? Why is it only Moses and why is it only Jesus? I believe because it's all internal, okay? That's the reason why Jesus had to take that path, because there is a place where Moses lives inside of you. Where does David live? A man after God's own heart, a man after God's own heart. So that is the heart space, which is the Star of David, which is also known as the Merkaba. The 12 petals outside of that is also known as the 12 disciples, the 12 zodiac, okay? As well as 2, it is 6 times 2. So that means that there's external points and internal points of this Merkaba space, which is now starting to get into the Tesseract, which is starting to get into the spirit beyond. Some people will understand this, some people will not. Some people are aware of it, some people are not. I suggest that you be more open if you do not understand this than closed when you do not understand this. Okay, so if you do start comprehending this and really getting to this sacred geometry aspect, that everything is sacred geometrical, as you start to get into the throat, which would be the 5th seal, you get into the mind, which is the 6th seal, and then the 7th seal, which is open, 1,000-petal lotus, as well as when all 144,000 are ignited of the 12 tribes of Israel. 12 times 12,000 is 144,000, all resonant on the same 7 seals of Revelation, okay? Now this connection, this 40 days of dry fasting is connected as the rod. The rod is the spine. The serpent is known as the feminine and the masculine, okay? As where serpentine energy is known as deceptive energy. And so a lot of people say, I don't want to talk about anything about serpents or any of that type of stuff. I don't want you guys to be afraid while I say this. I want you guys to actually be aware of what I'm saying. Now, for those who are here, listen to this. The rod is your spine. It is also known as Jacob's ladder. Jacob's ladder, it looks like a ladder. The spine looks like a ladder, okay? It is also 33 vertebrae, okay? Christ began his mission at age 30 and was crucified Christ, okay, at 33. The 33rd vertebrae, which would be the ignitement of the pineal gland, which is also known as the pine cone or the pine alchemist gland, the pine alchemical gland. It releases chemical and electrical impulses within the brain, the pituitary and the pineal, all that stuff. And during this time, when you're fasting and when you're cultivating this type of stuff, the serpent energy is actually releasing deception out of your body. So imagine you have a sickness inside of your body and you're getting rid of it. You're in the midst of getting rid of it. Now, you could be convinced by other people around you that, hey, no, keep that, you know, don't be afraid of that. Be afraid of it. But really understand the psychoanalyzation of releasing serpentine energy outside of you. So when you rid yourself of the Decepticon, absolutely, but the deception and the illusion, you're getting rid of it. You're letting it go, meaning that you are only saying, I attract truth. I attract trust. I attract faith. I attract high vibration. I attract light vibration. And a lot of people will say, you're supposed to have dark vibration, Well, guess what? There's levels to things, okay? There's levels to reality as well. And so, yeah, to some degree, there is a necessary point, but once you move beyond that point, you're going to be talking about the things that I'm talking about, where you're going to start to secrete at such a high vibration that you're releasing such low vibration, including different serpentine energies. And then you release that. And from that is ultimately you're releasing your ego. You are eradicating your ego. That's what it is, because it's the deception that you are something other than what you're not, which is the ego, which is the flesh. And that is also connected to the Don't Tread on Me flag. It's also connected to samsara. It's connected to the Ouroboros. Okay, it's also connected to the Kundalini rising, the Serpentine rising. It's also connected to the Caduceus. These are all similar aspects of the snake. That is also the same thing in like Harry Potter, and eradicating that, like him defeating the snake, is all a spiritual representation of it. In in the Jedi path, like in the Jedi path when on number 9 with Rey, she she lifts up the serpent in the desert. She heals the serpent in the desert in pure white as the divine feminine. She's the divine feminine. That is what it is. Okay, like I said, the snakes are the divine masculine, divine feminine, and as they actually are eradicated, okay, there's no more serpentine or deceptive energy internal. So what does that leave room for? Answer that for yourself. What does that leave room for? It leaves more room for higher vibrational energies. You don't have the reptilian energy, and that is also known as the reptilian brain, the lower aspect. You start to release the reptilian aspect of you, which is the the connection, I guess you could say, between you and survival. Like you need food, and you need water, and you need all these different types of things. And you release a lot of that. So you realize, oh, I don't need water. I don't need food. I don't need to necessarily be all about these different types of things. You start to really get into the self-actualization of Maslow hierarchy of needs. And this is the interconnection between the 40 days of dry fasting, lifting up the serpent on a rod. So this is through breath work. When you could do Kundalini breath work. And I don't want you to be afraid of the Kundalini. Kunda just means coiled snake. Coiled snake. It's down where Egypt is, which is known as the lowest chakra, or it's also known as the lowest seal, which is Egypt. As well as, here's the thing too, is that as you start to fast, out of Egypt my people shall rise. Out of Egypt, they are promised a certain land. They're going to be in the promised land. The promised land is here, okay, where the chosen people are chosen or released to. Okay, so then you cross the Red Sea. The Red Sea is blood. Okay, where does blood pump? It pumps from the heart. Okay, it has to be from a line of David. So Solomon was the predecessor of David, and then who followed David? It was Yeshua. Okay, Yeshua is from the line of David and the line of Solomon. Okay, and Solomon built the temple. Okay, he actually built the temple. A lot of people are going to say it's all outside. It's all a distraction. Everything outside is a distraction. Just don't even, sometimes just close your eyes and you'll see. Just close your eyes and you will see, okay? The serpent and the staff, ancient symbols such as spiritual ascension. The serpent wrapped around the staff is a potent spiritual symbol seen in various cultures. In the Bible, Moses lifted up a serpent on the staff to heal the Israelites. Israel, okay? This symbol also connects to the Egyptian god Thoth. Thoth, okay, so I've studied this. Thoth really just means thought, okay? Thoth is thought in Egyptian culture, okay? Now, also, this is known in the medical caduceus we know today. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. The medical caduceus is like when you see that rod on the staff, like we don't think anything of it, but it's everywhere, okay? And they're telling you that's where your health is. And then you go to somebody outside of you who does not talk about any of that. They take the Hippocratic or Hippocratic oath because they're hypocrites, okay? Let's keep going. The serpent represents Kundalini energy or coiled serpent at the base of the spine. This rises during spiritual awakening, spiritual arising. It is opened during spiritual awareness, granting wisdom and healing throughout the body. Healing, health, spiritual health is exactly why it's the health symbol globally, okay? Right in front of everyone's face they have no idea what it is. The serpent wrapped around the staff is potential. Both Moses and Jesus are the one who fasted for 40 days. In their fasting, they transcended the need for physical food and physical water and connected deeply with the divine within them. This 40-day journey represents a spiritual transformation, a period of cleansing, renewal, and enlightenment through dark room cavern practices. You go into a cave for a long period of time, no food, no water. And the reason why you go into a cave is if you've already practiced breatharian. This is all connected to breatharian. If you've practiced breatharianism, it's easier for you to go into a cave and have no food, no water. It's actually a cool, wet, dark place anyway. So you're going to have that absorptive nature, as well as you're going to turn on the DMT aspect, the melatonin aspect, because caves are dark. They're absolutely dark, where the pineal gland will be turned on. Okay, let's keep going. The 40-day process represents spiritual transformation, transmutation, a period of cleansing, renewal, and enlightenment. This fasting experience is a metaphorical desert because it is dry fasting, a place of deep challenge for spiritual revelation. It means that you are through the seven seals, you have the seven seals right now in you. Okay, those seven seals are seven seals of revelation. They are to reveal something within you through everything that you subconsciously absorbed and observed all of your life. You have observed and absorbed programs your entire life. You have a specific 1 and 0 binary connection to everything else around you. The desert is a metaphorical spiritual trial and purification. The desert represents a place of testing, purification, and this is also known throughout multiple spiritual texts. Specifically, I like to always resonate and go right back into the Bible. Just as Moses and Jesus spent time in the desert, dry fasting, it's also fasting is known as steadfastness. So if you know what steadfast means, it means holding the word. It means holding the commandments. It means holding your semen. It means semen retention. It means being chastised. It means being purified through dry fasting, doing your breath work, doing your meditation, meditating on your word day and night. The word became flesh, meditating on your flesh so then you do not act upon it, but you observe it. Remember, Yeshua, when he was being, right before he was about to be crucified, he said, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And so I must what? I must pray. Pray is also known as meditation. Praying and prayer is also known as affirmation, suggestion, declaration. I have to make declarations to my flesh. I am strong enough. I do not need food and water. I do not need external validity. I do not need external validation. I do not need things outside of me. I have everything within me that can ultimately sustain me. I have proper sustenance within me. If you can fast for 40 days and 40 nights, you can go any distance. You can go any distance. You don't need food and water at that point. He is a breatharian. Yeshua the Christ, Moses were breatharians. They were absolutely breatharians. Okay. And to condemn a breatharian and to put down breatharians is really just a spiritual unbeknownst to one's own true nature. Okay. It's someone so far from their own natural, aspects. The desert is a spiritual trial and metaphor for purification. The desert represents a place of testing, purification in spiritual texts, specifically the Bible. I always bring it back to the Bible. Just as Moses and Jesus spent time in the desert fasting and receiving divine revelations of their own spiritual journeys, these spiritual journeys often show us to lead us through metaphorical deserts of our own. These are times of trial, okay? These are times of our trials. We are going through the trials, like the Jedi trials. And I always refer back to the Jedi because that's what the Jedi is. It is Solomon, the Jedi light. That's where the Jedi came from. It is biblical, absolutely biblical, okay? These are times of trial where we must shed old patterns, okay? So you must unlearn what you have learned. Okay? You must unlearn old patterns and emerge purified, ready by the renewal of our minds. We must learn new ways. We must bring on a new body. We must bring on a new mind. We must bring on a new heart. We must develop a new heart, have new and newness of life. We must have newness of life in Christ, okay? And that is the most high level of consciousness. It is absolutely the most high level of consciousness. Imagine that you're at a lower plane of consciousness, because we are. Okay, we're in the 3D dimension. We're in the third dimension. There are multiple dimensions. Okay, we only see 1% of our reality of the rainbow. There are higher spectrums. Ultraviolet is governing all lower vibrational planes of light. Okay, it is all separated through the prism. Okay, now let's keep going. Number 9, the climb through spiritual terrains. On the spiritual journey, we move through various terrains. The desert, this is known as a metaphorical terrain. There are also mountains, valleys, forests, tundras, oceans, the fog. And I'm actually going to be speaking on this in the book that I'm currently writing. Now, each terrain represents different stages of journeys, okay? The mountain specifically. Go check out the book, The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weiss, okay? The mountain is you. The mountain, for example, represents the climb. The climb is the climb towards what some might say realization or actualization. And the climb is not an actual deed or doing. It is actually a state of being, and it's a state of realization. It's a realization that, look, you don't have to do anything. You just have to realize new realizations. You have to actualize a new realization, meaning that you could be right here and you could say, you might think the whole time here, oh, I'm poor. But really, in actuality, you are starting to realize, and you are beginning to realize, I am rich. That is just a realization. You don't have to go anywhere to do that. You have to do anything to do that. Now, you can do actions that can convince you and build confidence and build worthiness and build strength in you to be able to give you that strength to and that belief that you already are, that realization. But you can ultimately realize it no matter what type of conduct that you're doing through external validation. It's still, you are trying to do external works and deeds to convince yourself that it's already here. It's not about that. It's really about just already knowing your state of beingness. Now, the climb is also seen in various terrains throughout the desert as well. The climb in the desert is once you go and you start doing the breath work, you start doing the meditation, you start doing the observation of the mind. Meditation is the observation of the mind, observation of, realizing what is actually you and what you are telling yourself is you. And then that will start to dissipate as you become more and more of a practitioner of that. Same with the breath work. It will guide you. The breath will guide you. It's Ruach, it's spirit, it's the Holy Spirit, it's the whole spirit. It's the whole spirit that connects all of us is breath. It's the whole spirit that connects all of us. The desert is about endurance. Okay, so that's why it's 40 days. The desert is about practicing fasting. It's about practicing patience, inner stillness, and inner silence. Okay, these terrains are not just physical places, but states of consciousness, states of beingness. Okay, we must traverse and travel. Okay, we must traverse and travel these states of beingness and realize that we ultimately can cultivate these states of consciousness. That's really what it is that you must go through the desert. You must. What does that mean? Okay, let's bring it in layman's terms for 2 minutes. Let's speak openly and not in parables for people. There are people who will never try fasting. They will never try it. There are people who will partially try fasting. There are people who will do fast. They are fasting. There are people who will fast, and there are people who know fasting, do fasting, will fast. They're incorporating it. They're living a steadfast life. They're living a steadfast life. They're living that fasting lifestyle. And the being who is doing it should not be interrupted. The being who denies it should not be interrupted by the person who is doing it. Okay, so if the person's doing it, don't interrupt him. Or don't interrupt her. Okay. Changing altitude, changing perception so altitude perception, changing your attitude towards your heights, ultimately. The higher path of your breath work, the higher path of your consciousness, the higher path of your realizations. What does this mean? Okay, what does this mean? Throughout breathwork, we learn to change our altitude, to change our attitude while we do this. Breath is connected to the heart space. It's connected to the blood. It's ultimately connected to cardiology, so the study of the cardio. Also, oxygen, so blood is the transporter of oxygen. Okay, so that is a main aspect of how Ruach and spirit is connected with the blood, which is why blood had to be paid. And the crossing of the Red Sea is also the crossing over of blood, meaning that you do not live from a blood body anymore, that you are living in 40 or beyond, that you are living in a higher frequency. Okay, let's keep going. By mastering our breath, both literally and spiritually, we change our attitude and altitude, and our realizations began on a higher path and we raise our vibrations. This is ultimately what raising vibration is a realization of our already natural vibration of high vibration. A lot of us have been born in high vibration and then convinced our whole entire lives, our whole entire childhood, our whole entire teen years and our adult years that we are this low vibrational, unworthy POS, and when in fact we are actually made in the divine image of God, and it's totally not taught in school that we are made in the divine image of God, that we have Ruach in the Holy Spirit, the whole Spirit all within us, and that we just must live in Christ's likeness, that it's easier to live than it is not. It's just that you have convinced yourself that it might be difficult if you think it's difficult. Okay, let's keep going. By mastering our breath, we raise our vibrations, allowing us to access higher spiritual frequencies. This is also downloads or uploads or resonant frequency. We can reprogram our subconscious mind to, it's easier for me to be happier than I'm sure most people, because I've convinced my mind it's easier for me to be happier than most people. It's also easy for them to get out of that as well. I have compassion, extend compassion on them. There's no separation. It's like climbing a mountain. The higher you go, the clearer the air, the better the breath, the more profound the spiritual insight and chi that you cultivate within yourself. When you go to the top of the mountain, when you're at the top of the mountain, y'all, when you're at the top of the mountain with me, it's clear conifer air. The pine cones, the pineal gland, the pine cone was the first representation of the flower that was given by God to us to actually show us that he is with us, because the pine cone back in time, literally in his story, ultimately, the pine cone is the first flower that, before flowers were made, like flowers were only made like very recently, or created very recently. Okay. The flower of life. Check out the flower of life. Now, changing the altitude comes from profoundly changing our own internal insight. What is insight? Your inner vision, your mind's eye. Let's keep going, y'all. We're almost done. Number 11, breatharianism and the terrains of life. Breatharian path mirrors the spiritual journey of life's terrains. Sometimes you're going through a desert. Sometimes you're going through a forest. Sometimes you're going through different waves, okay? But ultimately, these are teaching us different challenges and different transformations that are happening on a deep level. These deep transformations happening help us with the practice of fasting, long-term, teaching us to rely not only on external means or external validation, but internal sustenance of spirit and light. It helps realize that we are always connected to the divine source, and we are not separate of our realities. We are not separate of nature. There is no external conditions. There is only conditions, which means that we are everything that's happening outside of us, as well as everything outside of us also happening within us. And as we transform the way that everything starts internally, as above, so below, as above, so below, you guys can start to see that as you start to change the way that you believe, there's many quotes on this. As you start to change the way that you believe, the things that you believe about begin to change, all right? Now let's keep going. The breatharian path mirrors this. The practice of fasting teaches us to rely not only on external validation, external substance, but internal substance and internal sustenance of spirit. Okay, let's keep going. Number 12, the serpent's journey, allowing the divine to awaken within us. As we release the serpent, and the serpent's journey up the spine represents the awakening. As it climbs through each of the 7 seals of revelation, you have new revelations within each of the crossing paths of the serpentine energy as you begin to purify, because as it keeps going up and up and up and up, it begins to purify at the temple, and then what it is crucified, your chi is crucified, Christ is crucified at the place of the skull, which is Golgotha. And they want you to believe that it's a physical place known as Calvary or Golgotha, but is actually known as the place of the skull. What is the place of the skull? What's inside of the skull? It is the brain. It is the brain. It is the mind. It is the mind's eye. And you have to see all the interconnection between all this. You have 12 cranial nerves. You have 12 bodily systems, 11 in a man, 11 in a woman. The only that are different are reproductive. Let's keep going, y'all. Raising our consciousness and the journey of raising our consciousness is actually truly embodying and inviting the divine potential within us. This is God within us, potent potential. Potent is power. What is the power within you? It is the Holy Spirit, okay? Moses, Jesus, and countless other spiritual masters have walked this path, have invited the same as to allow themselves to live on something beyond physical food, to reach higher consciousness. And it's not even like they're reaching for it. It's that they're allowing it already to be, okay? I would say that reaching for it is eating. I know that sounds crazy, but reaching for it is eating. It'll blow your mind when you see what I'm saying. Living in divine resonance is when you start to live in harmony with everything around you. You start to live in that synchronicity. You start to be in that connection, okay? So ultimately, guys, to conclude, spirituality, breathwork, breatharianism, the symbolic serpent energy, Moses, and Jesus, the 40 days of fasting, the breathwork, the desert, the dry fasting, the intercorrelated between the spiritual wisdom of the Caduceus, the Egyptian hieroglyphs, the interconnections of what ultimately we do as breatharians is misinterpreted and even maybe misnomered at times, misconstrued, but we are to live as light within us. So we are to bring more light to everything around us. We are to be the light in the world of the darkness, as well as that is also when you go into a dark room, you will not be dark anymore. That is actually what the process is about. Is you go into the dark until you cannot be dark, which is releasing the serpentine energy, which is the dark side of you, or the serpentine aspect of you, the lower aspect of you, the reptilian aspect of you. Okay, I want you guys to see what I'm saying, and then you transcend the reptilian brain. You bring it to the forefront of the mind. It is oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it. There's the midbrain. There's the reptilian brain, the midbrain, and then there's the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is known as your focus. So where you begin to focus on higher planes. That's really what it is, which is why you meditate, to build focus, which is why you meditate, to do all this type of stuff. If this resonates with you, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. If you guys want to work one-on-one with me, check out everything below, as we can really cultivate and build something and empower you on a very, very different level than you might be normalized to. I do offer different types of plans for you that all resonate within your guys' budget. If you guys want to make lots of money, hit me up as well, as we rise on multiple pillars and multiple levels. Peace, much love, namaste. Talk to you soon. Peace.